All right, for our next little exercise, I would like you to name the three types of address on the left-hand side. I've given you the other side in our lesson. We talked about unspecified addresses and duplicate address detection. We talked about unique local and embedded IPv4 addresses. But what's on the left-hand side? What starts with 2000 /3? What is FE80 /10? And what is :1/128? What addresses do these represent? I want you to go ahead and pause the camera now, write down your answers, and then unpause when you're ready to hear the correct answer. All right, so let's take a look at these. Hopefully you had enough time to write these down. So let's take a look. First off, let's talk about the loopback address, :1/128. Yeah, that's correct. They used :1 as the loopback address this time. Remember, in IPv4, we used 127 dot whatever you wanted. 127, the loopback address for IPv4 actually included the whole class. So many of you guys know 127.0.0.1, and that's great. But you could have used any number within that 127 range. 127.111, 127.254.254.254 if you wanted. All of those work as a loopback address. Major waste of addressing, if you ask me. But, I wasn't in charge of things back then. But see how they fixed that issue in IPv6. Now it is one single address, :1/128. So let's keep moving on here. What about our next answer? FE80. Now, hopefully all of you had this one correct because this is important. This goes to configuration as well. We'll be doing configurations with this in dynamic routing protocols, all sorts of things in IPv6. So remember, link local addressing starts with FE80. I like to remember this as FADY. I don't know why. It helps me remember the link local addressing. And then last on our list is global unicast addresses. These are our regular addresses that we can route from all over the world. And it starts with 2000 :3. Now, it does go up from there. It doesn't just stop at 2000 :3, but this is where we're at in the modern addressing. We have a long way to go before we start turning the first quartet's numbers yet. So that's it for this IPv6 addressing questions. Now let's jump into something a little bit different. Okay. Now in this little exercise or question, I want you to answer a question for me. Here we see the management interface. We're looking at a management interface here, which shouldn't be a surprise to many of you. You see my IPv4 addressing right here. But take a look. I have some IPv6 addresses. What goes where here? Can anyone tell me what goes where? I have a primary IPv6 address. What am I going to put in there? What belongs here? Is it a link local address? Is it a multicast address? What is the address that goes there? And then the primary IPv6 gateway, that IPv6 gateway down here, what goes in here? Is it a global unicast address? What are we looking for? All right, go ahead and pause your video now and give me the answer. What goes in that IPv6? If I want to make sure I have connectability and IPv6 gateway down at the bottom, what are the two addresses I'm looking for? All right, hopefully you had enough time to answer the question here. So when I'm looking at these, what I'm really looking for is probably up here, definitely a statically assigned IPv6 address. So in this case, it would be something like 2001 DB8 A:2. So that would be, oh, I messed that up. I forgot a colon. DB8:2. So this would be a statically assigned IPv6 address. What about here at the bottom? What would that be? Well, this would be a link local address of the next hop. That's what I'm looking for, the link local address of the next hop. So this would begin with FE80, much like you see at the very bottom there. So link local address, whatever it would come out to be, probably C267, something of that nature, and so on and so forth. Oh, double. So on and so on. AFF, I'm just going to make something up. FE, and then like, all right. So we know those. Now, that brings me to my next question. Let's go over to interfaces. I want you to go ahead. We're going to select this dynamic interface. And when we have this dynamic interface, I want you to take a look at the interface address. If I am using IPv6, how do I enter an interface address for IPv6? I want you to go ahead and pause your video. Go ahead and write down your answer to this. And then when you're done, unpause your video and I'll give you the answer. All right, welcome back. Hopefully you had enough time to answer this with your pen and paper. Now, remember, this is a dynamic interface that I created. We're looking for our interface address. What is the addressing I put in here? And this was kind of a trick question to get you. Oh, I'm so mean. So our interface addresses, even though we're dealing with a pure IPv6 environment, but it's a pure IPv6 environment, our interface addresses for our dynamic interfaces, our interfaces over here. Let me jump back out. So when I create an interface, using this new tab, I create a dynamic interface, and that's what I labeled this one as, this interface, this dynamic interface. We are only able to support IPv4 addressing only. Dynamic interfaces only support IPv4. So this would be IPv4 addressing in here. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed this exercise. If you struggled with any of the topics that we discussed, or you had any problems, or you're just generally confused about what we were saying, remember, this is just an exercise, just to, kind of tickle your brain a little bit and remind you of some of the weird things that we saw in our IPv6 lesson. I want you to go back and review IPv6 in Module 4 if you're having any troubles at all. Review. It'll really help you out. All right, I hope you enjoyed the exercises. We'll catch you next time. Thanks, and bye for now.